And we are rolling. Hey guys, it's your buddy Jake Dominguez back with another movie review. And today I'm going to review one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I'm speaking, of course, of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the brand new film in the Marvel Universe, written and directed by James Gunn. So, let's talk about it. Now, before I begin my review, I just want to say really quick, I'm going to do something really different and not get too much into the plot of this movie. Now, if you guys have seen my videos before, you know that I'm not going to share with you any spoilers, but I at least tell you guys this basic synopsis of the movie. That's how I always begin my reviews. In this case, I'm not really going to do that. If you're watching this review, you probably have seen the trailers. You've seen that. I don't feel like I need to add too much more. The reason why is that this movie has a ton of surprises, and they obviously did a great job not revealing those surprises. I'm referring to Marvel and James Gunn. And I want you to see those surprises when you see the movie. Therefore, I'm not going to get too much into the plot of this film. But what I will say is that all the characters from the first film are back in this movie. We got Star-Lord, played by Chris Pratt. Gamora, Zoe Saldana. Bradley Cooper as the voice of Rocket, of course. Such a great character. Dave Bautista? Is that his name? He's a wrestler? Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry. Of course, is back at Drax. And of course, Vin Diesel is back as Groot. Only this time, of course, he's Baby Groot. They're all back, and I was so excited to see this movie, to see these characters that I love so much again. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy is one of my favorite films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it is an absolutely fantastic movie. James Gunn is a really talented filmmaker. I'm a huge fan of his script for Dawn of the Dead, the remake directed by Zack Snyder. He's done other films like Super or The Specials, which I've never seen. I'd like to see The Specials. But he's a super talented filmmaker, and he has a very unique voice. And what I loved about Guardians of the Galaxy is that it was a James Gunn movie. You could tell his sensibility, his style was all over that film. One of the criticisms I have with some of the other Marvel films, as much as I love them, is that they do kind of feel like TV episodes in the sense that they don't have a director's stamp on them. You know what I mean? Like, you can, like, Thor, for example. Good movie, right? Kenneth Branagh, a really talented filmmaker that I'm also a big fan of, directed Thor. But you really couldn't tell from the movie, almost. You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of is what it is. And that's fine. You know, they're good movies. They don't need it. But I love that James Gunn is definitely the guy behind Guardians of the Galaxy. The most obscure comic book characters you can get. And he made it work in a great movie that was hilarious, that had great action, and had great emotional depth to it. You cared about the characters. There was drama. There were stakes. And I loved that. And I'm happy to say that this continues in this movie. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is insanely entertaining. I had a great time watching it. I loved seeing these characters back again with their quips and their chemistry. It was great. All the actors that I mentioned earlier do such a great job as their characters. Their performances are maybe even better this time just because they have more to work with. I'll get back to that in a bit. And it is insanely fun. This movie is hilarious. I went to go see this movie first show, opening night, and there were times where the whole crowd was laughing so hard that it was like going over the dialogue from like immediately after. So I'm probably going to have to see this movie again, not only because it was a great movie, but just to see what dialogue I missed, you know? But overall, it was insanely entertaining. The action sequences are even more insane and more wild. In fact, I gotta say, I thought Doctor Strange had some trippy, mind-blowingly weird scenes in it. It had some messed up, really extremely experimental imagery. If you saw Doctor Strange, you know what I'm talking about. I am tempted to say that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 maybe has even more weird, more experimental imagery than Doctor Strange. That's a pretty big statement, but things get weird in Volume 2 of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I loved it. It was awesome. It's a really well-shot movie. Things get insane. That's all I'll say. And all the new supporting characters are awesome as well. I loved Kurt Russell as Ego. He does a really great job because he's Kurt Russell. Coolest guy who ever lived. I mean, he's going to do a great job. I mean, he's Kurt Russell, for goodness sakes. And all in all, if you're coming to this movie just to have a good old fun time at the movies, eat your popcorn, laugh, enjoy the action, enjoy these characters, you're going to get it. It's an insanely entertaining movie, and it's really well done. But this movie had some surprises in it that I would really enjoyed. The main surprise I have from this film is the emotional depths that it goes and all the character moments that it has. Now, all of that was in the first film as well, but it gets explored even more in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This is a big, huge blockbuster movie that revolves around character moments. Literally. Without getting too much into the film, again, no spoilers, there are so many scenes in this film that are just about the characters talking. Just getting to know one another. It's about getting to know their past. That's a recurring theme in this film. Getting to know their past, where they came from, and that sort of thing, and how that affects them in the future. Well, excuse me, not the future, in the present day. You see, the Guardians of the Galaxy are outcasts. I mean, Rocket's a talking raccoon, for goodness sake. I mean, all of these characters are outcasts. They don't belong. They are the biggest oddballs of the bunch. If you saw the first film, that's obvious. But that continues here, and it shows these characters that are broken. They don't fit in terms of the galaxy, really, even though they've saved it. And even within the group. Like any family, they fight with one another. And this movie opens questions about the characters and that sort of thing, and I loved it. You learn more about these characters that you already loved for the first movie. And that's what great sequels do. I don't know if this is true, this is just speculation on my part, but I could tell that James Gunn was really inspired by The Empire Strikes Back. I don't know if that's a conscious thing on his part, but I saw a bit of Empire Strikes Back references, not references, but a feel in this movie. Now, Empire Strikes Back is one of the most ripped off movies ever made. How many times has someone made a sequel and says, oh, it's influenced by The Empire Strikes Back, it's darker, it's more grittier, blah, blah, blah. What I mean by this film is influenced by Empire Strikes Back is just what it does with its characters. And without getting into too much detail, there's moments in this film where the characters are kind of split apart, just like The Empire Strikes Back, where the movie has Luke over here with Yoda and has Han and Leia and Chewie and C-3PO and everyone else over here. And there are R2-D2s over there with Luke too, I guess. And they're separated. So instead of the great chemistry we get all the time, they're separated, which leads to them finding new things about themselves. And it works incredibly well in The Empire Strikes Back. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. And I think I got a similar feel in this film. And again, it works incredibly well. To make a huge, massive, mega blockbuster and make it about the characters and about character moments, that's something to be cheered on. That's something to praise. And I give a huge thumbs up to James Gunn for doing that. Now, one quick thing. Michael Rooker in this movie is insanely great. He plays Yondu. You remember him from the first movie. He's hilarious in that film. He does a great job. He does a great job here. But his performance is so strong here. And I can't go into much detail on that. You just got to see the movie, but his performance as Yondu is just the same as everyone else. The performances are better because the writing is better. It's just a great script. James Gunn knows how to write a great script. The dialogue, everything in this film, in terms of the screenplay, is really tight, really strong, and I loved it. And I loved watching this movie. Now, I do have one criticism of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And as much as I can praise James Gunn's screenplay forever, if this was a spoiler review, I would just spend hours talking up all the little details in the script and how good it is. I do have one criticism about the film that does kind of come from its screenplay, to be fair, and some of the editing and whatnot. To be honest, the first hour, 45 minutes of this movie does feel a little choppy at times, if I'm going to be honest. There are times where it feels like we're a little all over the place. And on one hand, I kind of liked it, and I think it worked well enough. And again, it led to those great character moments that I love so much. It did feel a little all over the place, and I think that might bother some people. Some people may not like those character moments. They just want action 24/7, which I get. It's summer movie season. But other than that, this was a pretty great movie. It's a great sequel. It might be the best Marvel sequel ever made. Well, maybe Winter Soldier is just that much above it, but it's pretty close. This is a really great, really entertaining movie. The soundtrack is fantastic, of course. There are so many great scenes, and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 an A minus, a solid A minus. I'm actually going to give it that because I had a great time with it. And I think there's some really great filmmaking in this film that may not be completely obvious when you first see it. I know some critics are giving this film kind of mixed reviews because of some of the criticisms I mentioned earlier. Well, I only had one real criticism, but some people are really bothered by the fact that this is all character moments, I guess. But for me, it worked fantastically. And it was surprisingly really touching and emotionally resonating at the end. It actually really moved me. And again, if a huge blockbuster movie can do that, credit to James Gunn, credit to Marvel for doing that. That deserves all the praise in the world. In my opinion, it's not quite as good as the first movie, I will say that. I think there's aspects of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 that are better than the first film. Maybe in terms of those character moments, which I keep on referring back to that, but it's true. But in the end, I think just on a film quality level, I think the first one's the better movie. But it's pretty close, and maybe I will change my mind, but Volume 2 is extremely fun. I would definitely recommend that you guys check it out. Well, guys, that's my review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. What did you think of this movie? Let me down in the comments section below. And what Marvel movie in the future are you most excited for? For me, there's no question. Black Panther. Ryan Coogler directing a Marvel movie. I'm interested in that. I can't wait. Guys, thank you so much. If you like this video, please, 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 please don't forget to like, subscribe, and even more importantly, never, ever forget, I am your friend. I am always going to be there for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart to you guys for being my friends. You guys are the best, and I will see you next time.